Somewhere along the lines of my childhood, I established the Anchorman movies. I don't know how it happened, I just came across them. They were like my introduction to this comedy scene, especially this specific type of comedy. And so today, I'm going to be looking at the Anchorman movies because I just finished watching them back to back. Please help me. If you don't know what the Anchorman series are, it's pretty much just this news group that gets up to miscellaneous adventures, usually by mistake, and it's very funny at times. Let's get into them, starting off with Hotshot television anchorman Ron Burgundy welcomes upstart reporter Veronica Corningstone into the male-dominated world of 1970s broadcast news. That is, until the talented female journalist begins to outshine Burgundy on air. Soon he grows jealous, begins a bitter feud with Veronica, and eventually makes a vulgar slip on live TV that ruins his career. However, when an outrageous story breaks at the San Diego Zoo, Ron may get a chance to redeem himself. Buried below a very silly, comedic undertone is actually quite a heartfelt story. Obviously, it's not executed perfectly, but there are some good characters who also are not executed perfectly. But that's because, personally, I feel like these things are just looked after, like their second-hand thoughts, because the main purpose of this are comedy movies. But let me get into what I enjoyed about this movie. So starting off, I really enjoyed the editing. It felt very fun, very fresh. It put me in a specific time period. The soundtrack to this movie as well, absolutely great. Nothing but 70 jams, man. Because this is a period piece, being set in the 70s, and it feels like that. From everything from the set pieces, the costuming, the soundtrack, as I previously said, makes it perfect. It feels like we're in the 70s, especially the way that news is presented. As you watch the movie, you start to realize the very childish humor that is aroused around these characters, and that pretty much sets the tone for the movie. It tells you a lot about the characters and how they act and how they actually are. They're quite stupid, being like 40-year-old adults, or apparently Brick's 19. But the humor in this is very funny. There's some really awkward moments as well, like that awkward cringe sort of comedy, which I think works really well with these characters that are so childish. It's very funny. And the acting as well goes along, makes these characters very good. I think genuinely these two movies might be one of Will Ferrell's best roles, maybe besides Megamind. I know that sounds like satire, but that's actually true. I think what he does in these movies are great. I've never seen him do anything like this before, and not only does he look completely different, seriously, I think it might be the best acting I've ever seen him do. Besides Megamind, which I think he did an incredible job voice acting in. There's this one scene, the Afternoon Delight scene, which I'm sure we all know. I can't really play it for copyright reasons, so here's them covering Slowdown. But it's a very good scene, very heartwarming. It's great to listen to. This must have taken 1,000 times. I read it down because obviously I wanted to talk about it. There are a lot of elements in these movies, a lot of comedic levels, and this is just out of the blue, and it just adds more to the movie. Bridge scene as well. Holy... I've seen these movies a bunch of times, but seeing Jack Black pick up a dog and kick it off of a bridge... I know that sounds bad. It's the first time I've genuinely laughed out loud, like exclaimed laughing, watching a movie in a long time. That doesn't usually happen, and I've seen this movie so many times. But I genuinely sat up out of my seat and started to laugh exclaimingly. It was absolutely hilarious. And the ending scene in the bear cage when Ron goes down to get Veronica, that's also a very hilarious scene. I find that very funny. The writing there especially was very funny. And another thing that I really liked was the channel rivalries. Like they have the History Channel and they have like the Sports Channel all come out and they have the little channel wars. I think that's great. Really creative, very fun aspect of the movie. Probably the best thing to be looking forward to in these movies, because this really is their strong point, which is another one of those comedic elements that just come out of nowhere, and then you got this great action scene that's also very comedic. Like I said, the undertones in this movie has a very good message. Film's pretty much all about the rising of women and how they they start to overtake men in a lot of jobs that they never had access to because the times are changing, as Bob Dylan once sang. And watching Veronica Corningstone sort of struggle and make her way to the top by herself, it's very good. Like I said, not executed perfectly, but there's definitely some writing elements in there and characters changing that I think drive this thing. Obviously, still in the comedic undertone, but still pretty damn good job. The characters are great. Seriously, they have writing. They develop over time certain events happen, specifically Baxter getting kicked off the bridge. That's pretty much a catalyst for the second half of this movie. But the characters do change, and I think it's all justified. It's obviously, this is a very funny movie, but it balances its stuff out very well. But that's pretty much all I had to touch up upon for the first one. Very much enjoyed it. It was so funny. The characters are so good. Surprised, actually, by the rewatch, as I was for both of these movies, to be frank. And I'm giving Anchorman: The Legend of Ron Burgundy a 7 out of 10. Moving on. Seven years after capturing the heart of co-anchor Veronica Corningstone, newsman Ron Burgundy is offered the chance of a lifetime, a spot on the world's first 24-hour global cable news network. Ron quickly assembles his team. Champ Kine, Brian Fantana, and Brick Tamland. Challenged by his tough female boss, a network owner and a popular anchor, Ron and his pals must find their own way to the top of the ratings. I think this movie may have been funnier, because obviously the first movie is starting to get dated both technologically wise and comedic wise, and although this movie didn't make me jump out of my seat and laugh out loud, I think there was a lot of funnier jokes. Reoccurring jokes happened, which I appreciated, but some reoccurring jokes also got old. But let's get into the goods and the bads. This movie's visually stunning. They really put some effort into the cinematography and the way that things look, the lighting as well, the set pieces once again. It just looks great. I don't know why it looks so good. The hair, the makeup, the costuming, it all looks fantastic in this movie. I don't know if I said this before, but they literally transform Will Ferrell past the point of recognition. He looks so different in this movie, so good as well. Once again, the soundtrack is reigning supreme. I absolutely love it. I think it's better in this movie. This movie's hilarious. It's got a couple of really cool scenes. Once again, acting great. Will Ferrell did a great job. Paul Rudd, as always, did a good job. Walter, though, the little kid, he was bad. I did not like him. But I think the characters develop better in this movie. There's definitely a lot of heartbreaks. There's definitely a lot of bonds being created. And the characters pretty much break down over time, which I think is very cool to see in this undertone sort of comedy. Because, once again, very funny movie. But, my God, is this movie over the top. I think that's what makes it so funny, because there are certain scenes that just make absolutely no sense, and they're so ridiculous, but they're hilarious. I think the road scene when the van crashes, absolutely hilarious, because in the span of 3 seconds, they're like, oh, why do you have this deep fryer installed, and why are there like poisonous scorpions in this big bowling bag of balls? I could have said that better. This big bag of bowling balls, and like 2 seconds later, they crash, and all that stuff hits them in the face. Obviously, the fight scene in this one, so much better. Rick has a space gun from the future and blows everything up. And there's like a minotaur or whatever. It's funny. It's so good. And Dobie. The ending scene with Dobie was so funny. When they're at the wedding and Ron swam out to see Dobie and was like, Dobie, you recognize me, and he just started attacking him. Very, very funny, but so stupid and over the top. I don't think I'd like this sort of humor, and on my rewatch for this movie, I was quite scared, but I enjoyed it, man. It's still very funny. However, this movie's not perfect. There's some pretty sloppy editing at time. The continuity between audio and cuts is not the best. Obviously, that's not always perfect, but in this one, it's particularly noticeable. It falls under the sort of cliche script. It's a script that got them by. I think certain comedic scenes were written quite well, but the more serious scenes in this did not go as well as the previous one, especially. But characters did still develop, and they still did do their best, but I'm giving this one also a 7 out of 10. These two movies both have their flaws, and they both have their highs, and I think they're really funny. It was really cool to go down a trip down memory lane. I've done nothing all day except watch these movies, which is a bit crazy, but all in all, I had a great time. They're very funny. You should go and watch them. Sort of chillaxing on the videos a bit, but I am having more serious stuff coming up, like more tier lists, because I haven't done one of them in a while. And now that I have this extra time, because I'm pumping these videos out weekly, I have more time to watch more movies and do more recordings. But I also still want to stay way ahead, because obviously exams are coming up, and time is of the essence. But that's for future stuff. These two movies, great, I love them. Go and watch them. Not the perfect duality, I believe we covered that in last video. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Have a good day.